Need for Speed Underground 1 was just absolutely incredible, really. What an awesome, fun game. But then I decided to play it again 20 years later and go all the way to the end. And let me tell you, nostalgia is great, but my modern experience was a bit frustrating. Hey there, I'm Valle, and in this video, I'm going to tell you about my frustrating experience with Need for Speed Underground 1 and why it hasn't aged all that well. In the story, you are a rookie and unknown driver who moves to the bustling Olympic City, a city that is permanently shrouded in night and lit up by vibrant neon lights. It's the center of an intense tuning and illegal street racing scene, ruled by an informal hierarchy of drivers. So your main goal is to steadily climb that competitive hierarchy and earn well-deserved recognition as the very best racer in the city. When it comes to the gameplay experience, Need for Speed really does this aspect exceptionally well. Everything responds perfectly to your inputs. Each car handles a bit differently, completely changing how you approach corners and racetracks, which really adds a lot of variety and depth to the overall gameplay experience. And one of the things that truly catches my eye about this game is the fact that it was released in the year 2003, and it still looks really good even today. Dude, they already had ray tracing back then. How is that even possible, man? And honestly, if you pick it up to play today, visually it has aged like fine wine. The lighting in this game is insane, and the reflections, don't even get me started. It's a game that's visually beautiful, truly stunning, and honestly, that's really impressive. Especially when you consider the year that Need for Speed Underground was released. Besides that, the game actually has a certain unique flair and style in its gameplay, especially when you downshift, man. And honestly, the gameplay in this game really puts you in control as a player, and it responds really well to your inputs and actions. EA, the developer, really did a very good job in that particular aspect of the game. One of the things I really like most about classic racing games from the PlayStation 2 era is actually the fact that you could accelerate and brake by utilizing the right analog stick, which was a pretty unique and interesting feature at the time. It works well, it responds well, and in this game it responds well with this kind of control. It's a type of control that I really like, and I honestly think it's quite cool. So when you downshift in this game, just by tapping down on the D-pad, it responds very well and feels satisfying to use. You have full control of the car. It's a different kind of feel. It's particularly precise gameplay. At least I really enjoy playing this way with the controller. But speaking of what I like, I really like it when you guys smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hype up the video to help us out here on YouTube, man. Let's help me and RoboZera really blow up and gain even more attention here on YouTube. One thing that truly impresses me in Need for Speed Underground is just how the tracks are also intricately interconnected with each other. This kind of thoughtful level design work is absolutely amazing and really stands out. The talented development team really nailed it here, delivering an outstanding experience. This thing of connecting one point that already exists in another and creating different circuits is really something to admire. The game also has a lot of variety in its customization, and that's really interesting. Just so you know, I started my journey with the classic Civic. Then, on the chat's recommendation, I used the Miata. And in the final stretch, I went with the Skyline. So yeah, it was really cool to play with these cars. I liked it a lot, and honestly, I totally approve of these three cars. And that's actually interesting, because this game has a pretty good level of difficulty, but at the same time, the game kind of cheats in that regard. There was a moment during a live stream when my opponent crashed their car, for example, fell behind, but right after that, they were right on my tail again. And that's when I started to find all of this really strange. I said, damn, Han, but this guy is racing at the speed of light, bro. That's impossible. Look, that's actually kind of cool, because it puts some pressure on his players. But come on, EA, are you kidding me, man? But honestly, the most negative point about this particular game, at least in my personal opinion, is definitely the fact that it's extremely, almost painfully repetitive. Good grief, that's awful. You end up repeating the same tracks countless times. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot of times. Look, by the time I got halfway through the game, I was already really annoyed. because you could clearly tell it was just filler, and that makes it super exhausting for anyone playing. The campaign really needed to be a lot shorter, and if they truly wanted to make the game feel longer, they should have made more varied and interesting tracks, man, because the tracks just repeat way too much over and over again, which gets really repetitive. Oh my god! As for the interface, I have to say it's actually quite good, and it definitely has a lot of personality. However, something I really need to point out here is just how much I personally like the indicators in those classic old racing games. And here's where it gets controversial, because I actually think they're better than the lines on the ground. Although, when we talk about accessibility, the lines on the ground work too. But the signage, especially the bright and clearly visible LEDs marking the exact moments when you need to turn or go straight, I think that's extremely positive. And I'd absolutely love to see that kind of thoughtful design in more games. Not to mention the helpful minimap in the corner of the screen, which also really helps you see what's going on around you. Emphasizing the signage, there are two main types, the eye-catching neon lights and the more traditional signs. And when we talk about user experience, I think these are the most interesting elements. And I'd really like to know your opinion on this topic. Which one do you prefer? Do you personally prefer the current way, with that line on the ground clearly showing the path? Or do you like the neon lights and the signs pointing out and indicating the way, helping players at the turns and all that? I think that's really cool. Look, just a few years ago, Nintendo actually used to flag videos of their games. But then someone realized it really wasn't worth it, and so they eventually stopped doing that. But when it comes to music, we're not so lucky. And when it's a game with licensed music, that's a really big problem, especially for someone like me, in particular, who produces and shares content on the internet. So here's another game where unfortunately we couldn't really enjoy its amazing and memorable soundtrack, simply because the songs featured in the game are all licensed tracks. I really hope that at some point in the future, the music industry as a whole changes this outdated mindset, because in my opinion, they're actually leaving a significant amount of money on the table with this kind of short-sighted decision. More people could potentially discover these talented artists, listen to their wonderful songs, and get to know new and exciting bands, for example, just by playing these games. But that's not really what the industry wants. It's a shame. Need for Speed showed a lot of potential as a racing game, with solid and enjoyable gameplay mechanics, but it really fell short when it comes to the amount and variety of content available. Maybe ending the career mode earlier would have been a great decision for the overall experience. At about 50% through the game, it becomes really tiring, monotonous, and repetitive, making it difficult to stay engaged for long periods of time. That's because the tracks are extremely repetitive. They should have improved this aspect in the game. I really hope that Need for Speed Underground 2 can improve on these points. And if you want to see my full and exciting adventure in Need for Speed Underground 1, I'll leave the playlist right here for you to check out. And if you're interested in exploring my other detailed reviews, they'll be right there on the side as well. If you're new here, you know what to do. Subscribe and leave a super solid like. That's it for me for now. That's all for now. Thank you for watching. See you next time.